Almost done for today. The last part of speech that we talked about for today was adverbs, and this will be a quick one because we don't have any related terms. There aren't different types of adverbs. We're just going to talk about adverbs themselves. And adverbs, I think, are probably the hardest part of speech to find in sentences and to recognize how they're being used. And we kind of compared the name adverb to the name adjective because they do very similar jobs. They're both words that modify. So using our 7th grade term, a word that modifies. And we thought about what else needs modified. We said adjectives modify nouns. So adverbs modify, and we've got the word verbs in there. Modifies a verb, but also an adjective or another adverb. Oops. And so we went to our sentence example that we had over here, and we looked for words that describe the verb. So we started with crossed. Are there any words that tell more about crossed? Well, how did the cat cross? It crossed quickly. So that was a word we wanted to put as an example. And so if we think about words like, quickly, what are some other words that sound like quickly? How else could it have crossed? And so we said quickly, slowly, happily, haphazardly. And so we started to notice a commonality between all of these words, and that they ended with ly. Now we can't say that as a general rule, but we can say that many end in ly. And that's a nice rule of thumb when we're unsure. And that's not to say that every single time that you see a word that ends in ly, it's got to be an adverb. But again, it's just a good rule of thumb. We also have adverbs that modify adjectives or other adverbs. So we looked at other words that were in our sentence. We still had with, but with doesn't seem to be shining anything. And isn't describing anything. It isn't describing anything. Very, we said wasn't describing luck, but it does make sense to say very bad. So in this case, we said bad is an adjective, then very is an adverb, and it's describing our adjective. So going back to our list over here, we added words like very, or so. And so our hint, we also had some questions for these, were how, when, where, and to what extent. How did the cat cross? Quickly. When did it cross? Yesterday. Where did it cross? Here or there. To what extent was it happy? Very happy. So happy. And so these are some adverbs. For the most part in 7th grade, we focus on these adverbs that end in ly, but that's not to say that we won't use some other ones, and I expect students to be able to recognize them. But again, that's just going to come with some practice as we go throughout the school year.